What is going on, everyone? This is Justin,
And this is Myron.
and welcome to another episode of the Just My Luck Podcast. Man, I don't even know what episode we're on now.
Like
I
episode 4 or 5.
yeah, it's one of them. And so our plan, you all, we hashed this out a couple of weeks ago. We plan to record maybe like 9 or 10 episodes, and then we plan to set those to release as a season, right? Kind of like a Netflix series or something like that.
Oh, we
So
cool.
it'll be one. It'll be like episode one will come out, then the following week episode two will come out. We just schedule them, and while they're releasing, myself and Meyer, we can take a break, couple weeks break, 2 or 3 weeks break. Then we can start back. We can have a week where we just sit and plan, right? Like, hey, for this season, what we're going to focus on? What kind of stuff we're going to do to take it to another level? Maybe we bring on guests. Okay, who going to bring on? I'll reach out to them, stuff like that. So I think me and my boy have a great plan going, man. I think you all are going to love it. So today we wanted to get into. Myron has he signed a record deal, so he's no, he's now y'all may not know, but Myron is a amazing singer and performer overall, and he has a gig. So we're recording this a little earlier than usual, and as you can probably see from our backgrounds, typically when we record it's night time, but now it's daytime. So we're making sure to get it in and get you all of this content. Man, we wanted to get into talking about dealing with childhood trauma. Now, before we get into this could be split into probably 20 episodes, because when you're talking about childhood trauma, you're talking about stuff from your past that may or may not have been fully dealt with. You're talking about feelings, emotions, events, people, all kinds of different things. I want to start off by saying that this is not counseling. Neither myself nor Myron are counselors. If you are in need of any true counseling, seek out mental health professionals. Seek out mental health professionals, therapy, psychiatry, whatever you need. This is a disclaimer. This is not counseling we're giving. We'll simply be talking about some of our ways that we've dealt with our trauma. And obviously, Myron, we don't have to get into in depth. You get as deep as you would like to. But yeah, man. Then we'll give some tips, and hopefully you all found value in some of the ways that we dealt with, or even dealing with, if it's something current that we're working through, that we're dealing with our trauma. So, Myron, go ahead and start us off, man. Talk to us. What are some of the ways? Again, you don't have to list the stuff, obviously, the actual trauma, but what are some ways that you deal with your, if any, childhood traumas? And I'm aware that different traumas might have different things that you have to do to deal with them, to work through them. So just talk to us about maybe one or two, and let us know how you dealt with those things.
Well, I think part of the thing is really like, and I think we've kind of mentioned this in the past in terms of there being a specific thing where you have to identify or kind of be honest with yourself in terms of like, what are the things that you see that are going on within yourself personally that you could identify and say, yeah, that doesn't seem like it's a situation. I don't seem like I'm reacting well to this situation. I'm avoiding these type of situations or scenarios. I'm reacting very abruptly or reacting with a sense of anger in these areas or situations versus approaching them from a place of maybe care or from a sense of understanding, different things like that. I think that's the first step in terms of everything, is just with any journey, right? Like if you decide that you want to lose weight, You got to be honest with myself. Hey, I'm not where I want to be. You know, if you're trying to get a closer walk with your creator in terms of a religion, it's like, okay, I'm not where I want to be. You know, you want to advance in your career. The first thing is just the admittance of like, hey, I'm not necessarily where I want to be. Okay, then what are the steps that I need to take? But I think the second thing that I would say in terms of outside of identifying what may be actually occurring in terms of mentally with you at the time, not necessarily mentally, but in terms of you processing and being honest with yourself about it. I think the next thing I would say would be um, just developing a plan of how you want to go about addressing those imbalances. Just to provide an example, just so I'm not just throwing out advice, but then not providing any context to any thought processes, right? So when I grew up, where I grew up, and probably how most of us grew up, this African American around the late 80s, or probably any of our generation, probably back before us, kids didn't have no ability to have too much of an opinion, right? If mama says this is what it is, or daddy said this is what it is, that's what it was. Grandma, grandpa, back in the day, a person that went to church with your family could spank you if they saw you. Then they would tell your parents, and then you would get a spanking once you got back home. You see? So it's a difference in terms of the village or the type of situation that people grew up in now. But like, you can't do that to folks' kids now, you know, in terms of different situations. Hell, when I was in high school, we and people still think this is crazy in terms of like depending on where they come from, we could get paddlings in high school. If you were late to a class, you get a paddling in our high school, like legit. So, but anyway, um, my mom for me when I was growing up was more so of like, you know, hey, you know, you don't get a whole lot of time to really do a whole lot of expressing of like feelings. So a lot of times I kind of held in things emotionally. Uh, so sometimes, and then also I developed a fear of letting people down or a fear of failure. So what that did as I kind of processed through it developed a sense of fear in terms of like trying things. I also noticed that if I wasn't careful, I could be dishonest, you know, because I didn't want to let somebody down. So I may not be, I may tell a partial truth, you know, or I may not, or I may have tried to avoid the conversation altogether. So, um, because I didn't want to let anybody down, because I didn't want to disappoint anybody, because I didn't want to fail. And sometimes, you know, because I didn't want to fail, I didn't try or I didn't get started with things. And that's something I'm still kind of even battling with now in terms of, you know, when opportunities come, you just when somebody answers it, knocks at the door, you got to answer in some cases and just have the and as they say, just kind of just step out on faith, you know. But you know, just to recap, I would say identify, be honest with yourself, and identify what the areas where you feel like, hey, I want to improve, and that's going to be different for each person. And then after that, just take the action steps of what you need to do in order to put yourself in the best position.
Okay, Dr. Kirkendall. Appreciate the no, that was good. That was good
What about you,
advice.
bro? What you think?
Oh man, I'm no trauma here.
No
Shit,
trauma.
no, I'm just here.
I know that's
No,
not true for the conversation we.
right. Heck no. So yeah, I mean, first of all, let me define trauma in, you know, a just in term, not necessarily the textbook term, but trauma is an event that affects you to where it causes you to um bodies have pretty much three responses.
Mhm.
It's a fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn as they call it,
Mhm.
right? Fight is like that's when you get angry.
Mhm.
Flight is when you run or avoid, and then fawn is when you freeze at that point.
Mhm.
So different people handle different traumas differently, and what's a trauma to one person is not always a trauma to another person. What's
Mhm.
traumatic to one person is not traumatic to another necessarily, right? There are some things that are, more prone to causing trauma, but
Mhm.
that's kind of getting into my counseling degree and stuff like that when I'm getting into that. But so yeah, me personally, um, I'll do one. I'll talk about one that I have overcome for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
I'm reluctant to share traumas that I'm actively recovering from until I've already recovered from them, and that's just because they're literally open wounds, and I don't want to dive too deep into them, in this kind of setting.
Mhm.
But um, I am working on some even currently, right? But one that I have overcome was when I was, I think sixth grade, even younger than that was the first time. But when I was in sixth grade, that was my first time that I really remember being bullied.
Mhm.
And, and, right now I'm 6'1", super muscular guy. But back then I was 5'7", 5'8", super skinny, um, still growing. And that was the first time I remember being bullied. Um, because of several things in my childhood, not necessarily bad, just my parents, how they are, their personalities, how I was raised. I didn't really know how to handle bullying. I didn't know about the correct way to work through that. Um, I've been told things like, go tell the teacher, stuff like that. Um, but I had no idea about the hidden curriculum, power dynamics, stuff like that. Obviously, I was 12, 11, 12, and then my parents didn't know that kind of stuff, or they may have told me, I don't know. But on top of that, I was kind of emotionally closed off, so I didn't necessarily want to share that I
Mhm.
was being bullied, right? I wanted to look like a good example, a good big brother, like I could handle whatever. So those things, sorry, I got a text from my wife.
Mhm.
Those things kind of affected me not being able to, not knowing how to deal with a bully really.
Mhm.
And then in seventh grade, the bullying was even worse. That was probably the worst in seventh grade. And then eighth grade, I moved schools, went to a new school, got bullied there. Um, Ninth grade, got bullied when I got to high school. And then
What do you
10th grade,
what do you feel like it was? Like, you know, I I don't mean to even cut you off, but it's like, was it simply just, do you feel like it was simply just size? And it was just like, okay, I see this guy. Because I know that there's guys when I grew up, right? They were bigger, stronger, stuff like that. And they were intimidated, or guys that had kind of like a rough edge to them. So uh that was their type of deal. But they were more open in terms of like throwing their weight around because of their size or whatever. And they,
mhm,
people would kind of cower under that or whatever. Um,
yeah,
but but I've also seen some folks where people thought that they could, and that person
mhm,
turned and let them know that nah, like we not gonna play like that,
mhm,
you know. And people kind of backed off, but it just took that one time for that person to
yeah,
so kind of like no, and then everybody
yeah,
else got the message. But it was
yeah.
it
That's
was it
typically
just
what it is.
was it for you? Was it like you said you were smaller, you know.
I was small, I was skinny, and I was quiet on top of that.
Hmm.
I was very like I was shy. I wasn't quiet. I was shy.
Hmm.
Two different things. I mean, I was quiet, but I was also shy on top of it.
Hmm.
So there was a lot. Wasn't very confident. And I don't know how many people are super confident at that age. I'm not sure. Um, and I think, and I don't know. I honestly don't know. At the end of the day, those are just some things that I was aware of about myself that could have possibly led to it. And also, if I'm sure that when people saw that I got bullied and I didn't do anything about it, they probably figured they could bully me some more. Or other people thought, oh, okay, I can bully. It's kind of opposite of what you're saying. Like somebody turns around, like, hey, we ain't doing all that. And other people see it, they're like, I ain't about to try this person.
Hmm.
So that's what I could gauge was the issue. You know, I've done a lot of work and thought on it, and some stuff I'll never know, um, but uh, the to bring the point home, y'all, I was bullied pretty heavily. Besides my sophomore and no, I was bullied my sophomore year a little bit, and then it kind of stopped because the guy who was bullying me moved away. And then junior year was a breeze, smooth, no issues. Senior year, that guy came back who used to bully me, but he didn't bully me senior year. Probably because I was like 6 foot and muscular. I mean, literally, that was probably my guess.
Hmm.
Um, I actually had muscles. That's the only thing I can guess. Or he may have just forgotten about me. I don't
Hmm.
know, which is fine with me either way. And so, what that did, though, you all, let's get to what that did to me, and then how I overcame that. I was already I told you I was quiet. I was shy. Wasn't very confident. I lacked I had some basic social skills. I can't take that away from myself, but I was still quiet. I was so shy that I didn't want to talk to other people like that outside of my family. Um, I was sensitive. I've always been a sensitive since a child. I've been sensitive, period. Emotionally sensitive to other people. Somebody were to yell at me and things, even when I was a little kid, it would get to me or bother me. And as so when I got to into school and I was being bullied, obviously being already having the basic sensitive nature, it was very it hit me twice as hard emotionally, wondering why. Why is this happening to me? What's going on? And so what happened was I began to several things happened. Number one, I when I didn't have anywhere or didn't feel as though I had anywhere to turn, that's when I turned to pornography and addiction,
Hmm.
right? Which I'm predisposed to in my family,
Hmm.
just because my family line, specifically my dad's side, uh, easily like that can become addicted to things. So
Hmm.
I fell into addiction, and it was there for me, man. It was there. It was always there. I couldn't talk to my when I didn't feel like I could talk to my mom. Definitely couldn't talk to my younger brothers. I was the oldest. Didn't Definitely didn't know anything about therapy even back then, and that's just what I ran to, and escape. So I turned to addiction.
Hmm.
I became twice as sensitive and it almost to where it wasn't no longer a strength of mine or a positive trait to be able to be sensitive to other people's emotions and show empathy. I was almost super easily offended
Hmm.
and too easily had my feelings hurt.
Hmm.
Right? Not on a basic like just sensitive, like I can sense your emotions, show empathy, connect with people better like I can now. It was like I just like shut down. I would cry sometimes. I feel like not really I guess, boy at that time, but in my head, I didn't feel like I was a real man because I was crying and things like that. It was crazy. I didn't know how to deal with the emotions, and so as I got older, those traits were still there, those remnants of that bullying. And so when I started to get into college and things like that, I was um, I was, how do I say this? I put on a mask of being, or even senior year, even my senior year, man, I put on a mask of being a little more outgoing than I was. I put on a mask of being successful with women when it was a lie. I
Mm,
put on, I tried my best to look like something. I tried my best to look like I wish I would have looked like back then so that I wouldn't be bullied. Now, I
right.
didn't know all this stuff at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know until hindsight when I went to therapy and then we talked through it for the first time. And so that was how that showed up. And there are other ways it manifested as well. Um, but what I ended up having to do, you all, was number one, I had to seek assistance, right? I had to seek help because oftentimes, if we're dealing with trauma, like Myron was mentioning, it may be a blind spot. For many people, it is. They don't necessarily know, they don't even always know, people don't always know why they're doing the things they're doing. They just say, why am I like this? Well, it's because you dealt with something a long time ago
Mm-hmm.
and you may still be stuck in those emotions. That's that freeze or fawn when you dealt with trauma, whether it be bullying, whether it be, molestation, all kinds of things like that, right? You Death of a loved one, even loss of a friendship, loss of a job, all that stuff can be traumatic. And you may be dealing with it. And you're wondering, why am I like this? Why am I reacting like this? So if you know what the issue is, or you think you have an issue like that, you even think you might have some kind of trauma that you're dealing with, seek out assistance,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, contrary to popular belief, it doesn't take a therapist to help you deal with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. You're able to work through trauma with, a friend, a trusted friend, or a loved one, if they're willing to do that with you. I love something that Myron does. He always asks, "Hey, man, do you have time? Are you able to talk?" If he's going to get into something like serious, he's like, "Do you have time to talk?" Definitely want to do that if you're going to try to go through this with a loved one. Like, hey, I have this issue, or friend. Like, hey, I got this really deep issue, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but on the flip side of that, you can also seek out therapy, right? Which those people are trained to assist with these things oftentimes. And so, first thing is seek help because it's not typically something that we could deal with on our own or fix on our own, or we would have already, if we were aware of it and were able to fix it on our own, we probably would have already been in the process of doing that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, seek out help, be patient with yourself. It takes time. Some things, once you find out the way to overcome them, or once you even become aware of them, then you're able to instantly start going along a better path. Sometimes it's going to take time. You may know the path and you may go along it, but you stumble. You might backslide. That's okay. That's normal. We're all human,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, for me personally, when I became aware of, dang, I don't know what's going on, my allergies,
Mm-hmm.
but when I became aware of that, of the what that bullying did to me through therapy, it was um it was almost like an aha moment. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I've actually been wondering, why I even started, why I went back and looked at pornography when I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to my therapist and we were discovered that was seventh grade. That was the worst bullying I had. That was
Mm-hmm.
the worst bullying. I was getting physically pushed. I was getting made fun of by groups of people. It was the worst bullying that I dealt with. And so I was literally in the midst of that. That's what led to the addiction, which also had its own domino effects in my life, as well as the hypersensitivity and things like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
when I made that shift, that switch to from, the carefree, more carefree Justin that I used to be as a kid, like just I guess a normal kid, you would say, right? To the what I call, Jen, this is not a counselor's term, but I call it the shadow Justin. I actually named it, but I'm not about to get that deep. had a coaching exercise with a recovery coach that I went through recovery coaching program. I actually named my shadow Justin, but um,
I'll
that's
say,
when he showed up. That's when he first showed up. That's where I froze. That's where I froze. I fawned, and
mhm,
I got stuck at that point
mhm,
emotionally.
mhm,
And but I still grew up. So I grew into a 18-year-old, 19-year-old body or 20-something-year-old body, but still was
mhm.
dealing with that stuff.
Right. Now, I think, bro, in terms of my thoughts with you, like, because see, the first time I met you, what were you, a sophomore?
Mhm.
Sophomore in college.
Yep.
Uh,
Sophomore or junior. Junior. Oh
junior.
no, we met. No, we probably met when I was like a freshman, like when you crossed Sigma or something, but just for a second.
What, at the interest meeting you claimed?
You know, no.
Interest you claimed
It
you
might have been.
man.
I was at the engine, but no.
No,
Um,
I think that sometimes, especially once you get away, because see, like I feel like I kind of reinvented myself when I went to college as well. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to go by my nickname. My nickname is Cord, right? So
right.
you know my family, or if you're from
They call you
Charleston,
Court.
Mississippi, anybody you know is gonna call me Cord. Like my friends, all of from high school, all of them, they're gonna call me Cord. You meet any of my friends from college, everybody knows me as Myron.
Yep.
Period. If you said Cord, they'd be like, "Who the heck are you talking about?" And if you said Myron, they'd be thinking about maybe my dad or something. You know, my
Yeah.
dad. So like they wouldn't even associate, that with each other. So I kind of did that, and I kind of I think sometimes you have to go through that almost separation. It's kind of good, you know what I'm saying, to have
Sure.
that point of like separation from that place or from that thing and have an opportunity to kind of reinvent and sculpt and develop that person, even when you're kind of navigating through those traumas. Because I feel like I had a similar situation as well too. But I feel like by the time that I met you and the time that I met you in, I feel like there were some qualities, even though I was older, I feel like there are some qualities that I desired to have from you that I feel like I didn't necessarily have. And it may have been Shadow Justin that was putting that on or whatever. I don't know 100% sure. But I think also the group of people that you become, you associate yourself. And I feel like we're the type of people, as we've had those experiences and those traumas in the past, as we got to the point to where we got older, we became more better identifiers of who are people that we should associate with ourselves with and continue to
100%.
associate ourselves with, because these people bring out the best in us. These people challenge us. These people are fun to be around. These people are trying to consistently enhance themselves. And those people we've continued to maintain relationships with into this day. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
People that allow us to be ourselves and don't, they joke on us, it's just,
Yeah, but that's just guys.
yeah,
That's
it's
just
just guys,
male friends.
and then I think even with that, people have to be careful.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Even with your friends and stuff like that, with a lot of the joking and stuff like that. Because I think even with us, with our friend group, right? Depending on the time of day, we just may not be on that. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah, yeah. No, I've never been on like joking on people. Not that way. Even though it's fun and stuff like that. Like I never, cause to me, being the guy that I am, the
Mm-hmm.
empath that I am, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely would never want to like put someone down, even as a joke. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my personal take on it. So I never been on that. Like not I've never desired to be on that. I'll say it that way.
Do you think fitness and stuff like that also like, or like, I know you mentioned size and stuff like that. And I keep in mind, I've never been. I'll never be 6'2". You know what I'm saying? I'll never be
Right.
your height and everything like that in terms of anything. Um, so I've always had smaller man syndrome, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I'm only 5'8". You know what I'm saying? Um, so like, do you talked about size and how that kind of plays into everything. Like, is it really like that deep in terms of like size, or do you think
It's not deep.
there's other factors in terms of a person's behavior that may play into them being intimidated by somebody?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say size is maybe like 2% of it.
Really?
I would say that I would say emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are certain traits. I think it's like 80% of it. If if you are aware of how to navigate the world, whether you naturally know how or just from your how you grew up, or you can make yourself do it
Mm-hmm.
at the right times,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kind of use it, you have it in your toolkit, use it at the right times. I mean, it don't matter your size. That plays a little part. I mean, because if you think about it, there have been some people who have led armies that were
Facts.
microscopic, you
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
Even when you try to look up the height of like Jesus, it was between 5'2" and 5'6",
Mm.
right? Seriously, like look it up. So
Mm.
my men on here. Now I ain't saying that you have to believe in Jesus or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but look up his height. His height's like 5'6". So, or they try to estimate it was about that high. So no, size is not necessarily the biggest determining factor. I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I truly appreciate that. That means a lot, especially on this public uh this public thing. You know, yeah. I Now I would say whatever traits you saw when we met, I was probably. I mean, I was still in Shadow Justin was still there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's still there now. I've just come to terms with him, and you know, but I mean, the stuff that you see around you all, my core friend group, like you, Trey, stuff like that, a lot of that was just me, you know. It's just me. So, I mean, I have a lot. I have way more positive traits than those negative or even shadow traits, right? I have a lot more positive traits going for me. You know, I'm very smart. I'm very I'm adaptable. I'm very driven. Like I'm very goal oriented. At the same time, I'm laid back. It's weird because I'm laid back, but I'm very uh, goal oriented. I know how to chill, but I also know how to push for something if need be. I'm very self aware. I'm intrapersonally off the charts as far as intra
Mm-hmm.
personal intelligence within myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can pretty much learn anything, like from string theory to ABCs. That I can learn pretty much anything if given the time to study it.
Right.
I have a lot of I can break things down very well to simple form to myself, and I can facilitate that to other people very well. So it's a lot of I have a lot of positive traits that I think I was showing back then that were really me. So I really appreciated what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, y'all, and to the listeners, definitely be patient with yourself, man. I
Mm-hmm.
can't stress this enough. It's not always going to be overnight. You know, once I became aware of the effects, I was like, oh, okay, I can start. I immediately started to make changes and become more uh, conscious of what I was doing. Like, oh, wait a second, I'm being hypersensitive right now. Sure. Am I? What's going on? You good, Justin? I start checking in with myself. Hey, are you good? How are you feeling right now? I'll be I'll be at the urinal, like for real. I'm at the urinal. I'm like, for real, you know how you look at the wall, you're like the brick wall, you're like, oh, look at this finish on this brick wall. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I almost every time I'm like, "How you feeling, Justin? Like, what emotion are you feeling right now?" And I'm like, "I'm feeling mediocre, pretty numb, pretty positive, pretty joyful, pretty happy, pretty sad, pretty irritated, pretty
Mhm.
flabbergasted, pretty overwhelmed." I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that what you can do in just a short time. But
Mhm.
if you can't make a change like that in a short time, that's okay. It doesn't matter if it takes the rest of your life. It doesn't matter because now that you're aware and you have a plan, as Myron mentioned, you can work towards that. Now, that brings me to my third thing. That brings me to my third thing.
Mhm.
It may never, that traumatic event in your mind, it may never go away.
Mhm.
Okay. And I want to be clear, it may never go away. In fact, it most likely won't. You can't erase your memory. We don't have the Men in Black stick where we can hold it up and you flash, your memory's gone. That'd be great. But we don't have that.
Yeah,
So,
it will.
so so eventually, not now, not today, not 6 months from now, but eventually you want to realistically come to terms with the fact that, hey, this happened. These are the effects. I'm now conscious of them. I can now choose to go a different route. And the more you choose to go that route, that better route, quote unquote, for you and your life and your family, the easier it will become to do that,
Mhm.
right? The more you do it, right? It's called neuroplasticity. It's how our brains work. We can we can change. We can change, but understand that that memory will never be gone.
Mhm.
And most of the, I won't say never, but most of the time it will not just go away. It'll still be there, but now that you're aware and you have a plan, you can make the moves that you need to.
Let
So
me ask you this question since we're on this topic in terms of like, being able to come to terms with, because essentially like, hey, I've come to terms with accepting the fact that this trauma is just going to be a part of me. Do you feel like in some areas as well too, you've taken the steps to actually like, um, let's say, how do I want to say this? Maybe what's coming to my mind is like closing that chapter. So
mhm,
like there's some conversations that I've had with my mom about some things, right?
yep, for sure.
About things that have happened with me and everything like that. And I've actually come and say, like, why this situation or um, you know, um, or why this situation uh,
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
big.
And
That's
we've
big.
kind of closed some of those doors, or at least kind of opened up the avenue to kind of search deeper into
Yep.
not really emotions, but how to best move forward with the reality of how those things were.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's currently a situation right now where I'm doing a little bit more of a deeper dive into some of my own family history and some different things like that, based upon some of the information that my mom was sharing with me. So I think that um, I think that it's good to to see with those things that you have control over, or those things that you can't ask or address with certain people, you know ask them, or reach out to things. So I wonder if you've kind of done something similar like that in terms of
Yeah.
your experience as well too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, something, I have a perfect example of this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was maybe like 4 or 5 or so, I was, I something happened and I started crying. I told you I was pretty emotional, not necessarily emotional because all humans are emotional, but I was very um, in tune with my emotions as a child. And I mean, still am now,
Mm-hmm.
but I was in tune. That was just before like bullying and stuff like that. But but when I was a child, I was very in tune, extremely. And I it's funny because something happened. I started crying, and I remember my dad. And I don't know if I told you this, Mary, it might have been Trey I told, but I remember my dad. Now my dad was 6'5". He's passed away now, but he was 6'5", right? And so obviously I was 5 or 6. I'm little still, So he stood up over me when I was crying and he said, Justin, stop all that crying. And he yelled at me
Mm,
to stop crying, right? So what happened again, this has been worked through already, but it goes to your example. At that time, that's something that started to shut me down as far as emotionally,
mm,
because I was expressing my emotions just fine. And then uh, he yelled at me, right? And that it almost jolted me to stop crying. But then I thought to myself, and I didn't know this when I was a kid, but this is what happened. I thought if I show emotion, if I express my emotion, as we may say it now, then I'll get yelled at, I'll get in trouble. Something bad is going to happen. And
mm,
so from that age up until, y'all, I kid you not, like 26, I was almost completely closed off. I would show emotion, obviously. I told you I would cry sometimes at school when I would get bullied. I would still cry, still get angry. I'd still feel various emotions, but I would barely ever express them like I needed to. It was under the guise of being very nonchalant. And while I am very laid back as a person, I still feel emotions.
mm.
I still need to express them as most humans do. We need to express them. Don't let society twist this up on you all. Your
That's
emotion needs to be expressed to my men out there.
yeah.
They need to be expressed
Hmm.
some kind of way. I'm not saying you got to go tell, your boys or go tell your significant your wife or anything your emotions. You can. I mean, I'm not. That's great if you do, and
Mm,
they're receptive to that. But even if you have to write it down or do like a video journal,
mm.
seriously, but they need to be expressed. Don't let society trick you into thinking if you share your emotions that you're not a man, because you're a grown man even when you share your stuff,
Right.
right?
Because if you
So
don't, then if you don't, it's gonna end up being you're gonna end up reacting negatively to other people, right?
you
You know
will,
what I'm
and it
saying?
shows up
So,
in
and
other
the
places.
people that you love are gonna end up feeling the effects of how you of your reaction, right?
Yep,
So you mad and then you haul off and you tear up something and your kids see, oh, dad's mad about something,
yep.
does that invoke the same type of behavior for your kids in terms
There
of
you
like
go.
how you how Justin feels and everything like that, or um do your kids become dishonest, right?
Yep.
Because
There you go.
they don't feel like they have the space to be
Yeah.
able to
They don't
verbally,
feel safe to share their emotions
uh, you
and
know
share what's going on.
um and men, it's so different for us compared to ladies. I feel like ladies are able to verbalize and express their feelings. I think parents even there's a different approach to kids based upon gender, as well too.
Oh yeah, 100%. Society has an approach, but that doesn't mean that we as parents,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or friends even have to take the same approach. You're right. They do approach men and women differently.
Yeah,
But
that's especially, and I hate to say it, I think I would, yeah, I think in terms of African American males, and I'm speaking from a person that's, African American.
American male, right?
You know what I'm saying? That is a thing that we battle more so than I think any other. I feel like I could say, like I feel like most other ethnic groups, I just feel like, some of those things you don't necessarily experience like that. I think overall it's men, period, that don't have the space sometimes to express themselves. But I think that, especially from what I've seen growing up, it's like, you can't show your emotions to your family. If you show your emotions to your homeboys, they be like, "Oh, you soft, you weak," and everything like that. You couldn't show emotions when you play sports. You had to always be kind of like hardcore about anything. Heck, I remember even when we was in a band, right? And if you played a specific type of instrument, there would be
Yep.
And I
A
remember,
guy playing a flute.
yeah, or something like
And
that.
be like, oh man, he.
Assumption of your orientation or something like that, or
Yep.
otherwise, maybe you just like that instrument, or maybe in back when we was in school, you had to take a test, and based upon the test, they would place you in that instrument, place you with that instrument or whatever. So, I mean, it's we struggle heavily with that. We struggle heavily with that in terms of emotionally being able to. First, it's just like who can I share it to?
Yeah, and that's why.
Who can I
Right.
share it to and won't judge me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's why I say, if you have a friend or significant other or somebody that you can share it with, and they'll listen to, then yes, do it. But if not, I I'm a very high proponent of a journal, even if it's written or video. Not even because you need to write a journal every night, dear diary today, just because you need to be able to express and write out what you're feeling. You need to get it, press it out, express what you're feeling, even if it's on a journal that no one will ever see.
Doug did it every day.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody remembers who Doug was, but Doug was a character.
Yep. Doug.
I forget,
Yep.
I forget
Doug
what
Funny.
it was. Nickelodeon. Yeah, Doug
Yeah.
Funny. Everything was centered around him writing.
Yep.
And I ain't never really think about it until I guess right now. Like that was his way of consistently expressing himself.
And Doug had some fire relationships too. He had Skeeter. He had Patty Mayonnaise.
So okay. So me and you, who's Doug, who's Skeeter? You're probably Doug.
I'm probably Doug because I actually write in a journal. So
you're probably Doug.
I write a lot in journals, like not just my feelings, like stuff. So I'm definitely Doug on that. And then I have some and Skeeter was so cool, man, because he always come with the support sayings and stuff.
He just the support. He was definitely a supportive person. He was somewhat athletic, but I think I'm thinking about not Connie.
Roger.
No, Roger wasn't that. He wasn't necessarily athletic, whatever. He was a klutz, like his last name was.
Roger Klotz.
Yeah. I think it was Connie. Connie was the heavy set. She lost weight later on. Connie did, but it was oh man, he had like the kind of like curly hair and everything.
I'm looking.
I can't remember in terms of the guy's name, but Skeeter was a
Chalky.
Chalky. That's him.
Studebaker.
Chalky Studebaker. That's him. That's him. The Chalky. That's exactly who it was. It was Chalky, man.
Yep.
But Skeeter was just more of a he was still laid back, but he was more personable,
Yeah, very personable. Very personable.
Able to connect with other people, very good interpersonal skills. And
there you go. Yep. Very good connector of people.
Larger family than I think he had somewhat of a larger family than Doug, I feel like. Or no, he just had his little brother Dale. He just had Dale, and then he had his mom and dad.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I think just going back to what I was saying, like I think that we need those outlets. I think, like Justin said, any way that you can go about expressing those things, even if there's activities in terms of athletics, if you like playing basketball, if you like lifting weights, if you like engaging in some type of other creative ventures, creating music, things like that that just allow you some type of way to express whatever emotions you feel. I remember writing songs back when I was in college, when I was writing more songs and stuff like that, where I particularly wrote a song and it kind of closed that chapter for me. I was able to kind of, okay, one of my line brothers like, hey, we need to do this. And I did, and we kind of did it. And it was like, he's like, I want you to do something with this song. I'm like, cool, cool, cool. I'll do it. And I did it, y'all. And I was able to kind of be like, I'm done with that situation. And I never looked back and never had had no emotion towards that situation or that person at any point ever again. Because I just didn't care anymore. I dealt with it. So I think closing chapters is good. And I think also, and I think also, like you said, knowing when to, was it Johnny Cash or what is knowing when to hold them and when to fold them.
Oh, yeah.
In some situation where you just have to either say, I put a bookmark in it and I'll get to it when I get to it, or, you know, I think I'm just gonna burn this one and just let it be, you know, what it is. And like you said, and have to kind of accept it as being a thing that, you know, I have to, you know, that I just have to accept it as being what it is at the current time. And I think there's and that maybe get into the point where there's a level of forgiveness. I think we kind of discussed or talked about that in previous times when we were talking about some of our traumas and stuff like that before the earlier pod. Just really being able to say to yourself, okay, like, I forgive this person so I can be able to move on without having the weight of that situation hold on to me and just hold me hostage, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that actually that kind of brings me back to what I was saying about my dad when he yelled at me. Because you asked me earlier about the closure thing, and you mentioned forgiveness. So anyway, that they emotionally locked me down for a long time. So I was like 20 something. And I remember 2015, and my father passed in 2016. So this was I'm talking about, this was right before he was diagnosed with cancer, which ended up killing him. End of 2015, me and my wife were on a road trip, leaving Chattanooga to, I forget where we were going. And I called my dad and we started talking. Now, me and my dad, we talked, but we didn't have many like super duper deep conversations. Not many. This was the deepest conversation we had ever had. Right. And I actually brought up, to your point, Myron, I actually brought up him yelling at me when I was a kid. And we had a conversation about it. And, you know, he told me, he said, and I'll never forget this, man. He said, well, kind of like your mom said, or your grandma said, well, it don't come with a manual. Remember that? Yep. Your grandma said that. It don't come with a manual. He said, this is what he told me. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, I had he said, my dad was in my life, but he wasn't in the house that much. He says, when we had you, I had no idea how to be a father, like no earthly idea. When he told me that, I was like, for some reason, because of that conversation, it clicked. I was immediately able to, I won't say forgive right then. I've been able to forgive him now, but I was able to understand. Oh, he wasn't yelling at me because he was trying to shut me down emotionally. He was yelling at me because he didn't know how to even deal with the emotion himself. He didn't know how to deal with himself. So he didn't know what.
Crazy. Because, I mean, and I know that there's some things that even us as fathers, because we've seen each other in our own elements in dealing with situations where those type of things happen. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like, I mean, I can think for sure of different occasions where I haven't handled my emotions well with my children
Mhm.
in terms of being frustrated with a situation or them crying or whatever, because I didn't know necessarily how to manage some of my own emotions. That's so true, bro. I mean,
And
I think that's so great that he was able to have that type of a conversation with you, and not necessarily that you. And you said that you understood, and I think that
mhm, I
that's
did.
the key point too. It's not, and because there were some things that my mom did to me, and I had to, and I asked her about them, and she had explained, and she said what her thought process was, and dang, it's like, yeah, I do understand that. I could kind of understand why
Yeah.
you're frustrated about this situation or that or whatever. So, dang, that's what's up. So, like, how did the remainder of that conversation go?
Oh, we were talking about family. We were talking about my family history.
Mhm.
Uh, talked about a lot of stuff that day. That was probably the deepest conversation we had, which again was right on time because the next few months he got diagnosed, and then it was downhill from there. I got my the I definitely still have time where I don't handle situations
Mhm.
as far as properly with as far as emotions with my kids.
Mhm.
The my saving grace was still that conversation with my dad
Mhm.
because even if even if I do have a situation where, and I'm pointing behind myself because that's typically where it happens. I might be playing the game or something and
Mhm.
then losing, and then my daughter come snuggle with me for the 10th time. I'm like, get away from me. But but no, two things. Number one, I'm aware of how I'm feeling and why I'm feeling that way.
Mhm.
So I even after I do something like that, I know to myself, okay, I'm frustrated because I'm losing this Halo game or I'm not playing as well as I could or some other reason or whatever. Second thing, I typically, not every time, I'm not gonna lie and say I do this every time, but typically if it's something or no, typically I'll go back and explain what's going on, or I try to do it in the moment if I can.
Mhm.
Like I go ahead and have that conversation with them or have it as soon as possible. So I might be frustrated then, but I'll go in there and snuggle if my daughter's not asleep or
Mhm.
my son, even him, even my son, he's two, he was two or he just turned three.
Mhm.
Same thing. I process through it with them. I say, instead of just leaving it to, I'm yelling at you, taking out my frustration on you, I say, okay, I apologize. I apologize to them, and I might say, "Hey, man, like my son. Again, he's little, so I'm just like, hey, man, gotta make sure not to do such and such, some kind of whatever behavior or they did to be frustrated. Daddy's going to do such and such, and just that processing with them, I go ahead and nip it in the bud. I don't just let them think in their mind, because in their mind, they might just think, oh, he's mad at me because I'm asking him something. That's not the case.
Mhm.
I'm not mad at you because you're asking me something or because, you know, you said a certain thing. I might
Mhm.
be mad because something else completely.
Right, right,
Not
right.
that I won't get mad if you do say certain things, but um, it's it's definitely a different ball game now. And I pray that what I do sets my children up well emotionally so that they can do even better by their children
Mhm.
emotionally.
Mhm. It's
We
gonna be
have conversations.
yep. It's a
Yeah.
cycle. We're gonna. I feel like as I've watched my family, starting with like my big mama, going to my grandmama, going to my mama, and to me, and my prayer is for my kids as well too, is that every step, every generation for us should be an improvement towards them being better than we were.
Yep.
Now,
Get better and better.
my great grandmother, I'm pretty sure didn't finish her education. She had like 11 kids, 13, I forget how many.
Yep.
Oh, um, and my grandmother was like, she's like the third third oldest out of all of them. And she made sacrifices and did things so one that her mom could have a better life herself, and then so that her kids could have a better experience. But she didn't finish high school either. You know, my mom finished high school, just finished up her bachelor's like earlier, was like last year or something like that. And gotten her associate's degree, and then I've gotten like my master's now, and then eventually I'll get my doctorate at some point. But inshallah, but uh, the real just thing that really just comes down to it is just there's a constant progression, you know, there's constant, but there's sacrifice, you know, there's sacrifice because my mom had me young, say, all right, you know, I had my son young, I'm going to work, you know, but my mom was she still can hoop, you know what I'm saying? She still can hoop.
Hey,
You know what I'm saying?
I
Be
love it.
tearing the crap out that backboard, but be peeling it, be like banking stuff. I'll be like, are you Tim Duncan? You know?
That's
So
funny.
she can still hoop and she still likes sports and stuff like that, but she didn't play. You know?
Yeah.
And I asked her too, like, why didn't you go play like ball and stuff like that? She's like, you know, I had a kid at 18. You know, I gotta do what I gotta do to, you know, and I want it to be my responsibility. So I
Yeah.
feel it, you know. So, you know, just a constant progression. So we're
Yep.
gonna keep on getting better, and you know, my prayers for all of our kids and everybody that's the generations that's coming after us today. Everybody just continue to get better.
Yeah, for sure. And
Mhm.
I told my kids, I said, hey, if y'all start getting like rich with money, y'all sending me money. I said both of y'all, especially Havana. I said I'm living with you, so don't even try to put me in no
The
as
home.
extra as my daughter is. Man, I'm like, hey, and let me tell y'all something. Like, look,
Boom
you
it.
living with me. Yeah, this girl's the most extra daughter you could ever have. My daughter's like out of this world. So I was talking to my wife. I was like, hey,
She get that from your wife though. See.
yeah, she took it to another level. She on another level. If I told you something, she took it to another level from Brianna. Brianna be looking at it sometimes like, but anyway, but
That's
like
crazy.
I,
That's crazy. If Bree got her looking like
bruh, she be looking
she
at her
got
like,
Bree
what
stuff.
is happening right now? She be looking at me. I'm like, I don't know what to do about it. But no, on a serious note, I don't know what's about to happen when my daughter becomes a teenager. We're gonna see how this go.
Lord have
Um, but now, y'all, yeah, I hope you all got some value out the episode, man. I mean, we had talked about a lot of great things, and overall, man, if you become aware,
mercy.
just sit and think. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just sit and think to yourself, do I have some things going on as a result of what could be trauma? Seek out help, seek out assistance, and work your plan, man. Plan
Yeah.
your work your plan. Um, and you will see the success that you need to with whatever situation that you're dealing with. So,
Mhm.
man, been a good podcast, man. Good episode.
Good one. We getting it flowing, man.
Oh yeah,
Getting it
for sure.
flowing.
It was really good.
That
So,
that chemistry.
oh yeah, it gets better. And then,
Mhm.
mind you, Myron, we ain't even got into like the no guests on here, and
Right. No,
that's
get
gonna be pretty
we
cool.
ain't even got no intro yet, or
No
nothing.
segments, nothing.
They don't want to hear
But
you spit. They don't want to hear you spit that fire.
oh man, oh that'd be awesome. Actually, that's actually pretty smart to record the intro once I get my studio set up. See, y'all,
Bro,
we're building stuff on the fly. We're getting it.
dude,
But
hey, what was the name of your EP, man? What, or
which
was it
one?
EP or LP?
It was definitely EP,
Okay.
and the first one I put out was Induction.
Induction.
Uh,
That's it. That's
yeah,
it. That's it.
and then the last one I put out was Quarantine Quarter Pack during the quarantine.
Quarter pack. Why
Yeah, that
haven't
was
I heard about this?
you heard it because you texted me and said you liked forget it only had 4 songs, hence the name Quarter Pack. It only had hits and misses that's one I think you said you liked. Hits and misses
Dude,
freestyle.
I'm gonna have the. Is that on Apple Music or something?
It's not on Apple Music, but I can send you the
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm gonna
I can
need
send it to
you to.
you.
I need you to resend that. I need that. I need that. I need that.
Induction is on Dat Piff.
It's on that pill. Oh my
On Dat
God.
Piff.
I'm finna listen to that today.
Yep. Induction, Jay Bryan, yep. Um, but yeah, I write music, I do all kind of stuff. That's part of what Myron was talking about, just being expressive and stuff and having stuff that you can really show yourself. Like I actually do a lot of expressing and things, that coaching, facilitating, using my gifts through like video games, through like a Halo, a game we play called Halo that you all may be familiar with, maybe not. I actually do a lot of facilitating, teaching, coaching, quote unquote, through Halo. Funny, I meet people through Halo, and then through recording.
Yep.
I have a recording studio. It's just stuff for fun, man. That's enjoyable, great to do with friends. So I will send that to you, quarantine quarterback,
Yeah.
somehow.
Need that. Need that.
But
I mean, if we're talking about quarantine, that means it was 2 years ago.
yeah, it was in 2020. That's when I recorded it.
Yeah, two or 3 years ago. So okay.
Yep. Um, it's funny. Okay. Well, we will talk about it off record. But anyway,
We'll let him
y'all.
go. We'll let him go. We'll let him
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. All right, y'all. I'm Justin,
And I'm Myron.
and it's been another edition of the Just My Look podcast. Y'all have a great one. Peace.
For sure. Let me turn my mouse on.
Yep.